So you wanted to really dig into Claudia Sheinbaum's inauguration speech, huh? I mean, it's huge GE, first female president of Mexico, history in the making and all that. So where do we even begin?
Well, I think the global reaction is a good place to start. Right from the moment she took that oath, you could feel the weight of it all.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Even just watching it on screen here, that Viva Claudia chant gave me chills. Like a wave washing over the whole event.
More than just a cheer, right? It felt like this outpouring of hope, this expectation for what a Scheinbaum presidency could mean.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just Mexico paying attention, was it?
Not even close.
Yeah.
Having Joe Biden there from the U.S., Lula da Silva from Brazil, that tells you this wasn't just another inauguration. The
Yeah.
world is definitely watching how this plays out.
It's interesting, though. She spends a lot of time in that speech honoring the past, connecting to those who came before her, especially her predecessor.
Right. Andrés Manuel López Obrador AMLO, as everyone calls him. His legacy is going to be a tough act to follow, that's for sure.
Oh, totally. Especially since he seemed to want to be remembered by the people, not statues or buildings. Remember that quote of his? Something like, "Let history judge me, but let the people decide what they want to name after me."
Yeah, and he meant it. He was all about humility and service, tackling corruption head on, which made him incredibly popular. So for Scheinbaum to come in after that.
Yeah, big shoes to fill. But
Yeah.
she did make a point of acknowledging him, his fourth transformation and all that.
Oh, absolutely. She praised his dedication, his accomplishments, calling it a foundation to build on. But then she starts talking about this humanist Mexican model she wants to create. It's like, okay, is this a continuation of AMLO, or is she setting herself apart?
Right. It's a fine line to walk, for sure.
It is. And that's what makes it so fascinating. Because on the one hand, AMLO's fourth transformation, it was all about rooting out corruption and inequality, lifting people out of poverty. And you can see that thread in Scheinbaum's vision too, but there's...
Just something more, something new.
Yeah, exactly. She's taking that baton and running with it, but adding her own spin. And the way she connects it all to Mexican history, it's brilliant.
No kidding. She talks about these historical figures, Hidalgo, Morelos, Juarez. It's like she's drawing strength from them.
Exactly. And reminding everyone that Mexico has this history of fighting for its ideals, for independence, for social justice, this legacy of struggle, of progress.
Okay, so we've got this historical context, this legacy she's stepping into, and this humanist Mexican model that almost sounds like something you'd hear in a philosophy class. What does that even mean when it comes to actually running a country?
Well, she actually connects it to real-world stuff pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like, she talks about how for decades, Mexicans were told to embrace these free markets and wait for the prosperity to trickle down.
Right, like that whole "a rising tide lifts all boats" idea.
Exactly. And she basically says, yeah, that didn't really work out for everyone, did it? So she's pushing for a different approach, one that puts people at the center. And she breaks it down into three main ideas.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
First, prosperity has to be shared. It can't just be that the country as a whole gets richer on paper,
Mm-hmm.
Everyone needs to feel those benefits.
So it's about making the pie bigger, but also making sure everyone gets a slice.
Exactly. Second, she's all about austerity in government. And I don't just mean balancing the budget, though that's part of it. She's talking about rejecting that lavish lifestyle that some folks in power, well, they get used to. In fact, she even quotes Benito Juarez on this one. There cannot be a rich government with a poor people. Pretty powerful stuff.
Whoa, talk about walking the walk, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's two. What's the third piece of this humanist Mexican model?
Honesty. She's laser focused on rooting out corruption, calling it a drain on resources, something that steals from everyday people. She's really putting it front and center.
Which, let's be real, that was a huge part of AMLO's platform, too. It's like she's building on that momentum, saying, we're not just talking the talk, we're going to walk the walk. But okay, enough with the big ideas. You know me. I like the practical stuff. How's she actually going to make this happen?
Oh, she gets into specifics, don't you worry.
Yeah.
A good chunk of the speech is dedicated to her policy priorities: economy, energy, social programs, security, the whole nine yards.
Okay, so let's get down to brass tacks then. What are some of the big areas where she's looking to make the biggest changes?
Well, with the economy, it's like she's trying to walk this tightrope between attracting foreign investment and making sure that it benefits everyday Mexicans. She talks about raising the minimum wage, which is huge, but also about supporting small businesses and making sure development reaches beyond the big cities.
Interesting. So not just focusing on the usual suspects, but spreading the love, so to speak.
Exactly, and being very conscious of the environment while doing it, which is a big concern for a lot of people, especially with climate change and everything.
Absolutely. It's about finding that balance, right? Economic growth and sustainability. Now, I got to ask about her stance on energy, especially with Pemex looming large in Mexico's history. Did she address that at all?
She did, and it's interesting. She still sees a role for Pemex, maintaining a certain level of production, but, and this is a big, but she also lays out a much more ambitious plan for renewable energy than we saw under AMLO.
Okay, so not a complete 180, but definitely tilting the scales towards renewables. That's going to be interesting to watch play out. Now, social programs feel like they're going to be pretty central to this whole humanist Mexican model.
You could say that again. She talks about strengthening existing programs, pensions for seniors, scholarships for students, but she also throws out some interesting new ideas.
Okay, so new ideas on the table when it comes to social programs. What did she have in mind?
One that really caught my eye was this new bi-monthly stipend for women aged 60 to 64.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty specific, but it kind of speaks to this broader point she makes throughout the speech
Yeah.
about recognizing the contributions of women, especially those who might not always get the spotlight.
Right, like the unsung heroes, the ones who keep everything running behind the scenes.
Exactly. And then there's healthcare. She's talking about expanding access, especially for seniors.
Which, honestly, that's a huge issue in a lot of places, not just Mexico.
Oh, for sure. And it's not just about having hospitals and clinics. It's about making sure people can actually get to them, afford the care, all that. So she's proposing hiring more doctors, nurses. But get this, she also wants to offer free home health care visits for seniors who can't easily leave their homes.
Wow, that's a game changer.
Right. It's one thing to promise better health care. It's another to actually address the real-life barriers people face.
Absolutely. Okay, what else?
So education, expanding access to universities, technical schools, all that, but also ensuring every kid in Mexico has access to quality education from the start, no matter where they come from or how much money their family has.
It's like she's trying to level the playing field, give everyone a chance.
Exactly. Now, remember how we talked about AMLO and that whole fourth transformation thing? Well, this is where it gets even more interesting.
Okay, how so?
Security. She tackles it head on, which is a big deal. It's this huge issue in Mexico, and she's not shying away from it.
Yeah, you can't talk about Mexico without talking about the violence, the cartels, all of that.
Right. And for a long time, it's been this war on drugs approach.
Yeah.
But she actually criticizes that directly, saying it's just led to more violence.
Which, yeah, hard to argue with that.
Exactly. So instead, she's proposing this multi-pronged approach, addressing root causes, poverty, lack of opportunity, which ties back into those social programs we were talking about, right?
Makes sense. You got to address the why, not just the what.
Exactly. But she's also talking about strengthening intelligence gathering, improving coordination between different levels of government.
So working smarter, not just harder.
Right. But she's not throwing out all the old strategies completely.
Yeah.
She still sees a role for the National Guard, which is interesting.
How so?
Well, that's been a bit controversial.
Yeah.
Some people see it as too militaristic.
Yeah, I can see that.
She seems to be suggesting their role is evolving, more focused on protecting people and maintaining order, not so much engaging in, offensive operations.
Interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. One thing that really struck me throughout this whole speech was how she kept coming back to this idea of it being time for women.
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't just a throwaway line or anything.
No, not at all.
It felt like this really deep, integral part of her whole vision,
It really did, especially that part where she's talking about the women in Mexican history, and not just the famous ones.
Yes. All those women whose names we might not know, but who've shaped the country just as much as the men.
Exactly. The mothers, the teachers, the workers. It was powerful.
It really was. And I think it sends such a powerful message, not just in Mexico, but everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. It's like she's saying, we're here, we're capable, and we're not going anywhere.
Exactly. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the main takeaway? What should we be paying attention to as Sheinbaum's presidency unfolds?
I think it's that sense of hope, that ambition she projects. Like, she's not shying away from the tough stuff.
Right. She's not just offering more of the same. She's actually trying to do things differently.
Exactly. And whether it's social programs or economic reforms, security, she's grounding it all in this idea of a humanist Mexican model, which is more than just a nice-sounding phrase.
It's about putting people first.
Yeah, exactly. Can she pull it off? Who knows? But it's going to be fascinating to watch. She's definitely a leader to keep our eye on.
Couldn't agree more. And with that, that's our deep dive on Claudia Sheinbaum's inaugural address. It's a new chapter for Mexico, one that promises to be full of challenges and opportunities. And as always, we'll be here to break it all down for you, so stay tuned.